Hello, everybody, and welcome to the afternoon tune. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm doing a special interview today for you people. I have the writer publisher John Holland. He is the publisher of Die Bold Comics, also the writer of the comic Death Rain as well. How's it going there, Mr. Holland?
It's going fine. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Trying to been setting this up for a while now, so just bumps in the road, but finally glad I was able to catch you.
Yes, I apologize for the last time when I missed you.
Oh no, it's no worries. Well, we're here now, and that's all that matters. So real quick, if you want to let people know about your background, where you come from, history into comics.
All right. Well, I've been writing comics for just about forever. I always say forever because for about as long as I can remember, I've been wanting to write. My first published work was in Fantagraphics Critters back in the 80s. Uh, and I worked with a lot of the indie publishers back then: Fantagraphics, Malibu, Innovation, Kitchen Sink, different ones like that for a long time. Uh, Took a little break for a while from writing comics. Then when I came back in, I've been mainly self-publishing. I self-publish under Diebold Comics, but I still work with some publishers. I've worked with It's Alive Comics, Insane Comics, and I'm still working right now with Antarctica Press at the moment also. I'll work with publishers, but I've been doing a lot of stuff. In the last 2 years, I think I've published about 2 dozen comics under Diebold Comics logo.
Oh, very nice. What's that like? What's the life of a self publisher there?
Trying to get money.
Mm.
Before, in the last year, I've actually just retired. So before I retired, I had a pretty decent day job, and I didn't have a lot of expenses. Most of my bills were paid. I don't have a lot of expenses. Didn't spend a lot of money on anything except for actually publishing my comics. So it was a little easier to do it then. But now that I don't have that day job to fall back on, I've went to Kickstarter, and hopefully Kickstarter is going to be a process to get some, to be able to publish some of these comics.
Mm. And this is your page right here, or
Yeah, that's my Ko-Fi page. That's got like the blog. It's got all sorts of stuff on my shop on there. I post things about it. That's some of the different comics I've done: Robot Sex and Alma, Girl and Her Dog. A lot of different comics. Like I said, I've put out quite a few books in the last couple of years. Some of them are repeats of some of the stuff that I had did back in the 80s and 90s, and then some of it is newer stuff too.
Mm, very nice. I saw also you did an interview with Tripwire, and I saw that you said that a lot of the comic with Death Rain is a lot of inspired from '90s
Yeah,
comics as well.
yes, definitely. If the artist on it, Travis, is very inspired by like a lot of the old the original Image guys. Like when you look at the art for Death Rain, you can see uh like the Darkness, Top Cow, Todd McFarlane. They're very inspired by a lot of that. So we're kind of like using the '90s as an inspiration, and not just the Image characters or the Image comics. And the '90s was when Sandman came out, Hellboy, Sin City. There was a lot of really innovative comics coming out during the '90s. So we're going to try to use a lot of that just for the influence. And basically, we've created a world where almost anything is possible, and we can tell almost any type of story in this that we want to.
So, what is the story of Death Rain? What is the story?
Death Rain it's situated on the planet Gehenna, which basically reality is uh, is non-existent on this planet, because you could be in an area where there's uh, demons. You could walk a little further, you can run into vampires. If you keep walking, the next spot you could run into, time may have no meaning. Time may loop on itself. Pretty much throughout this world, anything can happen. So it gives us an opportunity to tell almost any type of story we want to tell.
Mm, very nice. And this is the main character right here. This female, right here. Let me. Show. This is the main character there.
We've got three main characters. That is Allison, and then we have Jericho Black, Allison, and then Steve the Death Machine.
Okay.
And they're the ones. What's happening in the first story arc is there's cities from Earth that are disappearing and they're reappearing on Gahana. And when they reappear, the demons in this area are trying to kill the humans. So those three characters are there to protect the humans and trying to save the humans from being killed by the demons. So the first story arc is kind of a just full of a lot of action and adventure along those lines.
Mm. All right, nice. So since you've been in comics for such a long time, since dating all the way back to the '80s, I did interview another writer in comics, John Jennings, who's been in the game also for a minute, also an avid comic reader himself. Was that the same situation with you? Were you a big kind of avid comic reader there even before you started writing comics?
Oh yeah, yeah. I really don't remember a time when I wasn't reading. You know, from as earliest age that I can remember, I was reading something, and comics was usually part of that something I was reading. You know, when I was really young, I was reading Dr. Zeus books and comic books, and I used to read everything. You know, I would read the funny animals books like Three Musketeers. I'd read DC comics. And when I started reading Marvel, I kind of really got into Marvel at the time. The first Marvel comic I really remember reading was Marvel Daredevil number 50.
Mm.
And from that, I just kind of expanded out and really started collecting Marvel. And a lot of the Marvel I really grew up with and really liked was the, Marvel during the 70s when you had writers like Steve Englehart, Marv Wolfman, Len Wein, Steve Gerber, who I think Steve Gerber is probably one of my biggest influences. You know, Steve Gerber created Howard the Duck and did a lot of other comics like The Defenders and other books. But Steve Gerber was always one of those writers that kind of mixed the absurd with the drama. You know, he had a lot of his books always had a lot of humor in it, and I find that when I'm writing, I kind of try to always throw in something a little offbeat, not just always really, drama.
And this is Steve Gerber right
Yeah,
here,
that's Steve Gerber. Yeah,
and this is Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck was that was one that's one of my favorite comics, and that was and I mean did a lot. He probably worked on almost every Marvel character at one time or another.
Mm. So, do you see any kind of big shift, comic wise there from when you were reading it and when you were writing it in the '80s and '90s? Now, 2024, do you see any like really huge shifts there?
Well, the biggest I think is like sites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. You know, it gives people uh, a lot of people, you don't have to go to the publishers to get published now. I mean, you can always self-publish, but it's a lot harder to self-publish because if you have to come up with all the money, you have to pay the artist and the letterer and all that. So going through Kickstarter kind of, I think, opens the field a little bit more because if you can get your book backed on Kickstarter, you can afford to publish it and get it out there, as opposed before most people, the route to go is through publishers.
Yeah. Any kind of people in the kind of indie self-publishing game that you're looking at and says like, they're doing pretty well. I want to try to emulate some of that success at all.
Uh, I'm not really sure. I not can't think of any names right off the top of my head, but I look at a lot of some of the Kickstarters and I've I've been very new to Kickstarter, so this Kickstarter has been a growing and a learning experience. So I kind of just scroll through Kickstarter and look at some of the ones that have made more money, made some really good money, or even the ones that just funded if they didn't make a lot of money, and just try to look at what they did and see what they offered and go back and do that. We've actually refreshed our Kickstarter within the last 2 weeks. We brought in, we've made some new tiers, brought in some new covers, some new tiers to offer to the readers. Hopefully, that will get them excited. And because the middle part of the Kickstarters are always the slow part, is from what I've been told and what we're experiencing too. We're like within almost the last week of our Kickstarter coming up.
Okay. And how close are you to your goal?
We actually have funded. We actually
Okay.
have funded. We are at, let me see, we're at 40. We just lost we're at 43, uh, 40, almost $4,400, and our goal was 2,500. So
Oh, congrats.
we've done pretty well, and we want to keep, we want to hit that last that last week and really just get another $1,000, $2,000 if possible.
Yeah. Well, congrats for meeting, exceeding your goal there.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been a
Uh,
long month. I never realized how hard a Kickstarter was.
yeah. So this is like really your first time really experimenting with it. You haven't been on it very much.
I
Yeah.
I did one Kickstarter last year that basically failed, and it was all, I mean, I screwed it up. I didn't know what I was doing going in. I went in by myself pretty much, and just everything that you could do wrong on a Kickstarter, I probably did.
Oh,
So I kind of look at this as my first one. That was kind of like a testing ground. This one, it's been more of a team. We've had people helping us to get this Kickstarter off the ground and kind of show us what we're doing. And because there's a lot to Kickstarter. I didn't realize all the working parts that you had to get right to get this thing on Kickstarter and to get it looking good.
so, yes. I'll make sure to donate too after the interview.
Oh, thank you.
I'll make sure to drop in some money there. But yeah, if people want to do so, this is your Kickstarter, and I'll make sure to put the link to the Kickstarter in the description below when the video uploads there.
We've
Uh,
we've added some new tiers to it. We had a tier on there that's actually did pretty well for us, where you could get drawn into the comic book.
oh,
And we
okay.
only offered like five, I think five for that, and we've already got three of them that people have did, and it's a $500 tier. So we really wasn't expecting a whole lot of people to go for that. And then after that, we just added two new tiers, and one of them we've already somebody's already backed is be on the cover. So we're actually going to draw a cover with the person on it as a character, and then we'll print up like half a dozen copies of the comic and give to the person. And then we also have a tier for the second issue that you can appear in it as a character in the comic.
Oh, very nice. And so that's be on the cover tier right here. That's
Yeah,
$1,000.
yeah. And somebody's actually already backed that one. So if you've ever wanted to be on the cover of a comic book, this is your chance.
Oh, really nice. And then there's also being a supporting character, which is also $1,000 there.
Yeah,
And then the drawn in tier, which is 500 there, which is really nice. So yeah, but and the smallest tier you can go to is $2 if
yes,
people wanted to.
yeah.
So that's
And then
great.
we've got some different covers, some variants. I think we've got about 5 or 6 different type of covers that we're offering. With some other artists on it. We're doing a unwrapped cover with a blank cover. We're doing I think it's called an unwrapped copy, where basically it's just going to be Travis's pencils in it, because a lot of people on Facebook have been like, they wanted to try to ink Travis's pencils. They see his work and they go, oh, I'd like to try to ink that. So we're going to do a version of the comic that has no inks or colors in it. So anybody that wants to have a go at inking Travis will have a chance to do it.
This like this right here.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, let's work right here. Okay. Yeah, that'd be very nice. Yeah. Have you hit the convention circuit yet? Have you been to any?
Oh yeah, last year I did a lot of conventions. I usually do. I've done conventions over the years. This year I've slowed down a little bit, but last year I did Heroes Con up in North Carolina. I did conventions in Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and Texas. I'm actually based out of right outside of New Orleans, so I've been branching out as I go and just trying to get a little further for at conventions. I may do San Diego this year. I got approved at San Diego.
Oh,
I've just got to see if I can get a hotel and airfare and all that, because that runs up a little expensive. But I'd like to go. I haven't been to San Diego in a long time. I'd like to hit San Diego again.
okay. When's the last time you've been to San Diego?
22 years ago.
Okay, so it's been a
Yeah,
minute.
well, the last time I went to San Diego, it was still big, but you still could, like, I waited till like I think a month before, and I was able to get a ticket, an airplane ticket, and a hotel room within a month of the convention. And nowadays you couldn't do that if your life depended on it.
No, of course not. Yeah, San Diego, that's the big one that happens. San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah,
You said it's been a little bit more of the regional conventions. What's that experience been like for you? What have you learned from that?
from conventions.
Yeah.
Conventions have been really fun. I guess I'm still not used to when people come up to me and buy a book and want my autograph. I'll sell a book, and half the time I don't even offer to sign it, not because just because I'm not thinking about it. I'm thinking, nobody wants my autograph. And then, people will say, hey, can you sign it for me? And I'll be, oh yeah, I'll be glad to. But conventions are really fun because you get to meet the readers, you get to meet people, you get to try to, sell the comic. And it's really fun when I was at one convention and this one woman came up, bought something from me, and she came back the next day and told me that she had read it that night and how much she enjoyed it. And that's, you get a one-on-one connection with people at a convention. Other times you just sell the book and you don't know if the person liked it or didn't like it or what. It's nice to know that people actually are connecting to some of this stuff and enjoying the book.
Yeah. So what's your pitch? Like you feel like you have your pitch down of like when people kind of come up or
Nah, I'm terrible about that.
okay.
I have one book that I do a really good pitch for. It's called Alma. It's a book that I did last year. And the pitch for that is, what if Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a 72-year-old grandmother?
Mm, okay,
That's my pitch that I got, because one, it's an older character that's similar to like a Buffy character, and everybody knows who Buffy is. Even I found out even if people have never watched Buffy, almost everybody knows who Buffy is. She's become like one of those iconic characters now. So yeah, that's all. So when I use that pitch, everybody knows what the book is like right away, and a lot of times it really sells the book. So it's been a good pitch for it. But I'm very bad about trying to explain my comics sometimes. It's just, I guess I see everything in it, and it's hard for me to boil it down sometimes into just a little 1 or 2 sentence pitch.
okay. Anything that kind of frustrates you about these conventions at all, or just
The
how many
price.
you? Oh, okay, the price, yeah.
You think about like some of these conventions, your table is $200 or $300 or more. And especially if it's an out of state, then, you're paying for gas, you're paying for the hotel. Most of my comics I sell for $5 a comic. It takes a lot of $5 comics to make back, $500-$600. I have to sell a lot of comics to make that money back.
And do
And
you usually do so?
yeah, probably not. Someday, I find myself, I've been doing a lot of smaller conventions, and down here they have like a lot of the libraries in the different parishes will have conventions, comic conventions, and I've had better luck at some of these smaller conventions than I've had at some of the bigger ones, where I've made some really good money at some of these little small library conventions.
Mm, nice. Do you think that people are craving right now for more indie kind of creators to come in besides the two kind of or two or three big juggernauts like Marvel, DC,
I,
Image?
I think so. I think there's an opening because, as big as Marvel fan as I was, now it's, to me, I've tried to go back and read Marvel comics, and I can't even figure out what's going on in a lot of them, because they've changed so much and they're so stuck in that continuity that it's hard to get back into it. And I read Marvel comics for 20 years, and I don't know what's going on with it a lot. So I mean, I'll pick up a Marvel comic or a DC comic now and then, but I'm not a big reader of either of them. I follow more like a writer. If there's a writer working on a particular character, I may follow more than the character anymore. But with indie comics, there's so much more, so much difference. There's so many comics out there about almost any subject you can think about, that there's a lot more for people to look at and read. Get down, dog. I'm sorry, my dog is jumping up on me.
Oh, no problem there. Yeah.
Every time I get on one of these podcasts, the dog wants to be on it. She's like jumping off. Either she's biting my feet or she's jumping up on try to get on the camera.
She got some opinions too, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, maybe the desire is out there for more kind of independent kind of creators to come in, diversify the market there of comic books, and especially you know, with comic books as a medium, expand it more than it's not just superheroes and tights,
Yes.
and things like that. What's kind of some recent comic book stuff have you been checking out? If you've been interested in?
Uh, well, Saga, of course. I love Saga, but it's actually, it's taking a break right now. Tom King is one of my favorite writers. I know a lot of people aren't all that thrilled with his Batman work, but I enjoyed his work on Batman. But his new book, Helen of Wind, Windhome, I think, is really good. Anything Tom King writes, I'm usually there for. Brian Bendis, who's I've always been a fan of, but I kind of wasn't reading as much. But his new book, published by Dark Horse, called Masterpiece, is really good. I'm enjoying that a lot. Um, I try to even think of some of the others that I've been reading, but I like to pick up. I usually when I go to the comic book store, I just look at. I like to sometimes just pick up books that I have no idea what they're about, just to give it a try and see what they're like.
Mm, yeah. And I mean, I see all that kind of behind you. Is most of that comic books, or is that kind of a kind of
Uh, the straight back are books about like collections and stuff. All the on to my right, no, to
mm,
my left, is all actually CDs. That's
okay.
yeah, but straight back are all that's all books either about the history books of comics or like just collections of comics back there.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah.
Music. So I see you're a big music guy. Does that kind of influence your work at all, or?
Oh yeah, I love music. That's only part of my CD collection. I kind of listen to everything from the Beatles to Robert Johnson to uh, Bob Dylan to my tastes kind of jump all over the place.
Okay, because I was gonna say with the Death Ring, kind of the logo looks kind of similar to something like Slayer or something like that.
And that's what when the guy that created that was Phil Woodward, and basically we just told him to create something that looked like kind of a heavy metals '80s group or something, and that logo has gotten more people have really praised that logo, and everybody says that it gives them like an '80s heavy metal vibe or something like that, which is exactly what we were going for. So
Yeah, and this is yeah the logo. Yeah, I get very much
yeah.
that like
And I
Slayer.
like the logo because it's small, so it doesn't like we can put it up in a corner of the comic and not cover a lot of the artwork.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and yeah, kind of reminds me of something like that. I think yeah, it's very eye catching. I think if a person were to look at it. So you say a lot of people do kind of come up
Oh
to
yeah,
you at the booth.
yeah.
Okay.
We've made T-shirts for it. I really think the T-shirt people could be one of those T-shirts. I think that people that don't even know what the comic is could buy and wear just because most people will think, hey, that's some type of metal band or something.
Um, so you said you kind of took a little bit of a break, a little bit from the comics and everything like that. Um, so I hope you won't take offense to you're obviously a little bit of an older guy.
Oh yeah, I'm
Uh,
old. You could say I'm old.
you know, um, and you said how long was that break in between, kind of there?
I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 years. I was working. I worked most of my life in retail. I was a store manager.
Okay.
So, I think I just got to the point where, I published a lot of stuff, through the indies, and then I just kind of got tired. I was still reading comics, but I just kind of stopped trying to write things for a while until I kind of got excited about it again, or started wanting to write again.
Yeah, and I bring up your age because some people they have a little bit of a quarter life crisis, as they call it, or
Mhm.
getting older and trying to pursue what they really love or are interested in. Did you ever kind of face that a little bit of like it's just too late to pursue what I'm interested in, or?
No, I don't think so. In fact, I think it's been the opposite. Since when I came back, I just felt more motivated. As when I came back as older, and as it's gone on, I've just gotten more motivated to do it. I feel like after I've come back, after taking that break, I've come back and I'm a lot better writer. I just feel like I know more what I'm doing, and I just feel like I'm writing better than I did when I first started.
Mm, yeah. And do you think like, working full time as you did, that kind of like grinded down the creative juices a little bit?
Oh
Just
yeah.
okay.
In retail, a lot of times my my day could have been 10, 12 hours a day. And then at Christmas time, like from Thanksgiving to New Year's was basically, nonstop, in retail because, with Christmas and everything coming up. So, my days were long and, sometimes it was hard to come home and, feel the energy or the initiative or the motivation to sit down and try to write something.
Mm, yeah, Definitely a lot of retail. Yeah, that grind is definitely there. And you were working retail during also the pandemic too,
Oh
right?
yeah, we never closed for the pandemic. We
Yeah.
stayed open for the whole pandemic.
Yeah. Was that harder or a little bit easier than normal?
It was it was a little easier because we actually cut our hours back, so we weren't open quite as long. But then again, it was kind of harder, at least I think mentally, just going through that, knowing we're dealing with people during this pandemic that could be coming into the store sick, and people would come into the store that didn't want to wear a mask, and it just there was a lot of other issues at that time that would cause issues while we were working.
Mm, yeah. Well, hey, good thing you're back now. You're back writing, creating, and you're having success with it. Your Kickstarter's doing well and exceeded its goal. Have you kind of collaborated with some other talent there to help boost your profile a little bit, or?
Uh, just not. I mean, with other artists and stuff I've worked with, I really, I actually am working with. For this Kickstarter, we are working with a few people. Bradley Golden, who is the CEO of uh, Second Sight Publishing, who just put out Shook, a horror anthology that Dark Horse picked up. He's helping us with this Kickstarter. He's kind of like our editor on the book. I'm working with Kevin that runs a company called Inked Publishing, who does a lot of work on Kickstarter. He's helped. He's been a big help because the first day of the Kickstarter page I designed, and I didn't know what I was doing. And Kevin came in and redid it and made it look a lot better, a lot more professional. And then there's Blake Thomas Morgan, who's a publicist. He's been helping us out too. So we've got a lot of help on this Kickstarter. A lot of help. Get us making it look more professional and helping us get the word out.
Oh, very nice there. So what is the ultimate goal here of Death Rain? What do you like? What do you see? What do you envision for the future here?
We're hoping to make it a continuing storyline. If this takes off, we can get it published, get it not lose money on it, and make a little bit of money. We hope to do the second issue. We hope to do it within like every 2 to 3 months, able to put out a new book. And we're hoping this kind of opens up where we can start doing a few other books along the way. Besides Death Rain, we've got some ideas for some other books we want to try to publish and go through the Kickstarter process also.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
Travis is a very fast artist, so we could actually probably put Death Rain out monthly, but I don't think we could hit the Kickstarter every month and get it out. So we want to hit it maybe every 2 months, 3 months. Give us a little time in between to even do some other comic stories too, so we can kind of build up a portfolio of comics here.
Yeah. Do you see maybe possibly pitching it to some studios, get a show done, get a movie done, maybe?
We thought about it. That's always nice if that comes up like a movie or something like that. But that's never really my goal when I'm writing a comic, because I write the comic to make to produce the comic. If anything happens beyond that, that would be nice. But that's not the ultimate goal. But not to say that if some movie studio came to us and threw money at us and wanted to produce it, we'd be happy for that. We'd be thrilled. So not to say we'd say no to it.
Mm, yeah. You think you would kind of struggle with that at all, like as far as like having creative control, or you know what I mean? Of the,
No, I don't. I look back at Stephen King said, because almost every book Stephen King has ever written has been a movie or a TV show or something, and and a lot of them have been really bad. I mean, because I'm a big Stephen King fan, and very few of the movies are anywhere near the quality of his books. But Stephen King, I think, made a comment that it doesn't bother him because the book is still there. The movie is a separate entity. You can like the movie, hate the movie, whatever you think, but at the end of the day, his book is still there. So they didn't ruin the book. They may have ruined the movie, but the book is still there. So, I would like if something like that came along, I would like him to make the movie based on the comic. But if things get screwed up or changed, the comic is still there. I mean, the movie's a completely different thing.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Stephen King book or movie?
Ooh, I don't know. I've been enjoying his newer stuff. His books that are uh, more like the detective series that star Holly and some uh, that are a little less supernatural. Actually, they've been really good. His a lot of his new stuff. I've always liked his old stuff. The Stand is probably one of my favorite, but I've really been enjoying his new stuff. There's a point in the middle there. Some of his books, like the Tommy Knockers and some of those books, I wasn't that thrilled with, but I've pretty much read, I think, everything Stephen King has written.
Talk about a little bit about, people you said reaction to maybe people have to like other people's work. Stephen King, for example, but some people may hate his movies and
Mm-hmm.
adaptations and things like that. Has there been any feedback on your work that you've heard from fans of your work that you kind of have applied to the comic?
Uh, no, I mean nothing bad. Like I said, I've gotten some, I've heard a few good things. Like when I've been at conventions and stuff. But so far nobody has said anything bad. I'm sure there's people out there that don't like some of my stuff. I mean, that's just natural. Nobody's going to like everything. But so far, people have been polite enough not to come at me and call anything I've done, bad or garbage or anything yet.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, yeah, luckily that's I mean, something like that has never happened before, yeah.
Yeah,
So you're doing good right now so far there.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Tony Isabella, who was a writer for Marvel. He created the Black Lightning, that was on the TV show.
Okay.
I did a book called A Girl and Her Dog a couple years ago, and he said A Girl and Her Dog was one of the best comics of the year that it came out. So that was really nice.
Oh, well, that's very nice there. Especially kind of a big wig person like that kinda coming in.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody that, somebody that who's I've enjoyed their work, saying something nice about the book and say something so nice about the book too. That was really, that kind of really knocked me off my for a while. I enjoyed that a lot.
And this is Tony Isabella right
Yeah.
here. Creator of Black Lightning there. Yeah. I mean, are you a big consumer at all? You speaking about Black Lightning and the comic, and that got turned into a TV show. Are you a big consumer at all of superhero? You read the comics, but what about the medium of like the shows or the movies or anything like that?
I do. I mean, I've watched all the Marvel movies. I've watched some of the DC movies. Uh, I don't go to the theater as much as I used to. I usually wait for it to come out. I was going to the theater for at least every Marvel movie, but I think once the pandemic hit, it made going to the movies almost impossible. And since even after it's come back, I really haven't went to too many movies. As I've gotten older, I feel like I don't like crowds as much. I'd rather sit home and watch stuff. I don't want to be in the middle of a million people. I used to go to a lot more conventions, music conventions. Like down here in New Orleans, they have Jazz Fest, which is huge, and I used to go there all the time. But you know, I found I just don't want to be that one guy in the middle of 50,000 people listening to the music, where you can't move or really see anything.
Yeah.
So I find myself not going to a lot of places where there's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah, it's getting like that. I think a lot of people feel that way, especially post pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's just kind of like, being like, yeah, maybe I missed a little bit of the social distancing, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
kind of appreciate that. Any themes or kind of messaging coming through in your work at all, and something like Death Rain or Alma or
No,
any-
I try to write a lot of different type of stories. I've got science fiction, I've got horror, I've got slice of life. Uh, this is kind of a horror science fiction. Death Rain is. So I do a little of everything. So I try not to say okay, all my books are going to be like this or whatever. It's kind of whatever works for the story is what I'm gonna, I hope that that's what I'm bringing to the story, and making the characters feel more alive than anything.
yeah. One last question before I let you go here. Any advice at all for any writers? You've been in the game for a long time now. Do you think comic books is kind of one of the best mediums for a person to put out their story, their art,
I like
their
it.
create?
I like it. It's like I said, it's something I've always been a fan of since since I was a kid. But I think the biggest advice is just don't give up. I mean, I've been at this for like a lot of years, and I'm not that big a name. I'm not that well known, but I do it because I enjoy doing it. If you don't like doing it, then you need to find something else to do. If you're only in it to make $1 million, or be the biggest star or something, that's probably not going to happen. You see some people that happens to, but the majority are just we're gonna be the ones that just plug along and keep going. But I think you just if it's something you want to do and you enjoy it, just keep doing it. Keep figure a way to do it. Figure a way to write a little bit every day. If you've got a full-time job, which most people have. I did it for 46 years. I worked full-time, and I had to do it in when days when I was off or at night, or sometimes a week might go by or weeks might go by and I couldn't get anything done. But just stick to it.
Yeah, it's very good advice. Thank you, Mr. Holland, for coming on.
Thank
Uh,
you.
One more time, let people know where they can find your work, all your links, information, everything like that.
I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. Most social media I'm on as Diebold Comics. Facebook, I'm still I'm on Facebook as John Holland, but pretty much Twitter, Blue Sky, all of those, Instagram, I'm Diebold Comics. You can find my page under Ko-Fi, KO-FI, Diebold Comics. That's where I have my shop, my blog. It's got like some tiers there you can contribute to if you want to, help me put out books and stuff. It's kind of all in one site. And then of course, Death Rain, you can look up on Kickstarter, and we've got about, I think, 10 days to go. I was going to say 11. We got 10 days to go. So we're almost in the last week. We've got a lot of good tiers, a lot of good things. The book is going to be 48 pages. We're trying to offer as much to the readers as possible, because in today's world, money's tight. People, it's hard to spend $20 on a comic book when it's and you get and you finish reading it in 5 minutes. So we're trying to make something worthwhile and worth your monies. And we're trying to do as much as we can for it. So go there, back a tier, and help us out, and we definitely will appreciate it.
Oh well, I'll make sure to donate myself right after this interview. Thank you again for your time for coming on there, Mister.
Thank you. I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you very much.
No problem. Yeah. Well, I'll close out. Have a good
All
one.
right. Thank you.
Oh,